Okay, welcome back to Lab 6, Scale and Load Balance Your Architecture. I'm Richard Golson, and we are at our final task, terminating Web Server 1, Task 6. So we need to get rid of that Web Server 1. The reason why is that we're paying the cost of running a web server that we're not using. At any time in the future, we can always deploy a new Web Server 1 from our custom AMI into a test environment where we can then do configuration changes on the application itself. So we can modify the application and then create a new custom AMI and again terminate the web server instance that we've launched to create the custom AMI. But I can't see it. So notice under instances, all I can see are my lab instances. So if you're in if you're in that situation too, note that we have a filter that says the name of the instances that we want to display are lab instance, but we know this is called web server. So I'm going to clear the filter, and you can now see that there's the web server. And if you want to restrain that again, we could do name equals and select the web server 1, and now we only see that. So we're going to go ahead and terminate this. Again, we want to eliminate the additional costs. I don't need to save the EBS volume because I have that custom AMI. So I'm already paying storage rates on the custom AMI. I don't want to pay storage for this as well. So I don't want to pay for it running. I don't want to pay for it storage. So I'll go ahead and go to my instance state and do a terminate instance. And this is just saying, is this really what you want to do? And I do. And now I can see it shutting down. And eventually the state will show as terminated. All right, so that's good to go there. A couple other things, just checking in on auto scaling again. You can see now that we have the 6 successfully launched EC2 instances. That does not exceed our maximum, so it's following the policy. And then if we take a look under alarms again, and I'll do a refresh, you can see that it's getting a little slow. We'll let it load. While it's doing that, we'll come out. Oh, there you go. So you can see we've now maxed out at 100% or pretty close to it. So we've exceeded that 60% threshold, but because we've capped the number of EC2 instances, we won't be able to bring this down. So this tells us that, hey, you know what? We need to go and consider changing the instance type to provide more CPU per instance and still stay at that maximum of 6 EC2 instances. And then if we come over here to the target groups, we can see that these are all healthy. And then at the load balancers, we can take a look here. And one of the things I wanted to show you on any one of these scales here or tables, you can come in here and you can actually change and put in a custom value for the time period. When you do that, it makes it a little easier to read. If you leave it at the default 3 hours, these become very tight and almost unreadable. But if I come back in here and say, oh, you know what, what I want to see is a 30-minute time period, it makes it a little easier to see. And we can see that here's our request counts. And these are all based upon the requests that are being made to these instances there, because we have to do a refresh every few seconds. And so there you go. And you can take a look at your response times, et cetera, et cetera. All right, that's it for the lab. We've completed our assignment. And at this stage, what we want to do is check the grades. So I'm going to pause the video, come back, take a look at the grades after I go ahead and hit the submit button right here. And we'll go ahead and submit that. I've given it enough time. It should be able to read what I've done. At least 5 minutes has transpired. So I'll pause the video and come back. So you can see that I've submitted the assignment for grading and I've achieved full points, and it's checking that I've created the AMI, the load balancer, the launch template, the auto scaling group, the load balancer check is then performed, the auto scaling check is performed, and then it ensures that I actually follow best practices of eliminating any resources that we're not using. And the web server one, we don't need. We have our custom AMI, so we're paying for that versus paying for this. Now let's take a look at our submission report. And you'll take a look in here and it gives us the details. This is what it evaluated on our AMI. It found the AMI defined in the AWS account with the name, the appropriate name. So that was success. And then if we take a look at task 2, load balancer was created. So it found a load balancer named Lab ELB in the appropriate VPC. Here's the ARN it was able to capture for the load balancer, the Amazon resource number, the security group that was applied, the subnets. Note that it's in both US East 1A and US East 1B, 2 different availability zones. The security group, success. Launch template created. Here's the details on the launch template. I'm not going to read all those again. Success. Auto scaling group created. You can see the size. You can see the max size. And the auto scaling group with the name auto scaling group was found. Here's our load balancer check. Not necessarily in the order that things were created, but it was able to identify the load balancer, get the DNS name. And then it checked auto scaling group, more than 2 instances. So it was looking for the 2 instances. So it needs to see the scaling occur. So if you're only showing 2 instances, when you hit submit, that one's going to fail. So pay attention that we need to have 3 or more instances deployed before we submit this, or it will fail that check. And then it also checks, did you delete or terminate that web server 1? If it isn't in a terminated state when you hit submit, you might not get the great points for that one as well. So pay attention to when you hit submit. Know that if it's not in the correct state, let's close this up, hit the submit again, but make sure before you do that everything is in the appropriate state, then hit the submit. All right, we're almost out of time. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for watching and enjoy this culminating lab for our AWS Cloud Foundations, where we employed many of the best practices and many of the really great features for high availability, for really kind of traditional type of web server deployed in the cloud using some of the best tools available. All right, I'll see you again.